I'm going to go ahead with the meeting beginning ritual.
起立，面向佛堂，参加三鞠躬、一鞠躬、再鞠躬、三鞠躬，参加各位点传世一鞠躬，开班一鞠躬，请坐下。Please be seated.
Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to be able to share this time with you again. Today, I certainly look forward to Sundays. Sundays are generally my favorite day of the week. And that's in no small part to being able to connect and talk about the Tao. And today my presentation is entitled, as Derek read a second ago, Kung Fu, Day 30, Practice Makes Perfect. And in speaking of Kung Fu, in the West, we tend to think of the term as in a one-dimensional context, in the sense of as a martial art. And of course, it is, of course, that. But the first thing that Derek points out in this chapter is that the phrase or the term Kung Fu has a broader definition in the East. And in the East, Kung Fu can include anything that requires sustained, diligent practice. And he goes on to provide an example. And that example is when a student tells you in Chinese that he or she is using Kung Fu to prepare for an exam. The reference is to hours of concentrated study and not martial arts. And oops, let's see here. Okay. Using the term in this context also applies to the Tao itself. To master the Tao, one must be prepared to put in sustained, diligent practice. I mean, all of those wonderful Tao teachings, about flexibility and softness, which Bill talked about last week, about compassion. Of course, they all sound wonderful in theory, but to really benefit from them, they have to be put into practice. You have to live them, make them part of your life, apply them to the situations you face. Otherwise, it's just dead, static knowledge. It won't go anywhere. And one of the things that Derek brings up in this chapter is that there can be 3 steps to sustain diligent practice of the Tao. And the first example he gives is reading books about the Tao. And really, it could be, he gives a specific here, Derek gave a specific, but essentially any way of acquiring knowledge about the Tao, connecting to this meeting and listening to Bill and to Derek, or reading books, or fellowshipping, so to speak, with other people. I know when I first went to the temple, I was helped a great deal by a lot of other Tao cultivators who were willing to teach me and share with me their experience and their take on things. And that was very helpful to me. And that's, in a sense, another way to acquire knowledge about the Tao. And then once you've done that, digesting the words or the information and turning them into wisdom will be the second step. And that's something you can certainly do internally, hearing the words, listening to the nuts and bolts of the teaching, but to really take the time to think about it, to reflect on it, to see the wisdom of all of those teachings is a good second step. And then, of course, in a way, the most important step is to take that wisdom and apply it to your own life, to the real life situations that you face. How do we handle conflict? How do we treat other people? How do we look at dealing with difficult people? Do we choose to see them as resources, or do we just rail against them and dislike them? Can we apply respect and value towards everyone? Can we have compassion for someone who themselves is very difficult, are having a difficult time? I mean, like Bill's example about the things that you see happening on the road. People in such a mad rush sometimes that they will cut you off and so forth, and rather than getting dragged into that, it's good to remember the teachings on compassion and take a step back and realize, that person is not having a good day. They're probably late for work and so forth. And sometimes when you understand why people do the things they do, it's easier to be more compassionate. And part of the Tao teaching is to look for and search for that understanding. And then, of course, to apply it to your life. So, where people often get stuck with these three steps is, they can do the first two. They can acquire the knowledge, and they can even see the wisdom of the knowledge. But then it doesn't go any further. It essentially, like I said earlier, remains static knowledge, static dead knowledge in a way. If all you have is the intellectual understanding of the wisdom, but you don't apply it, you don't make it part of your life, it won't really transform your life into something happy and balanced. But those who do hear the teachings and do their best to live the teachings, those are the people that really reap the benefits. And once you've experienced how those Tao teachings can change your life, I mean, as Bill often says, it's time tested. It's practically mathematical precision. If you put those teachings into action and apply them to your life, sooner or later, you can't help but be happier, be more balanced, and be more fulfilled, and actually enjoy the living. Not to say that you won't still have challenges. We all do. I think we probably always will, as long as we're, manifested inside a body, inside time and space. I mean, that's just sort of comes with the territory. But how you look at it, how you approach it, makes a huge difference. And that's why the Tao teachings are so valuable. So to illustrate this idea of, not getting stuck with the Tao teachings or the wisdom never going anywhere, never actually being applied, there's a story in Derek's most recent book, The Tao of Happiness, Life Lessons from Shang Tzu, where it's called The Story of the Wheelmaker. And the teachings in the story are actually very multi-layered. But I wanted to sort of briefly tell the story as Derek expressed it, and then talk about the part of the teaching that applies to my talk today. So, the Wheelmaker. One day, King Huan was reading a book while an old craftsman was busy making wheels in his work area. The Wheelmaker saw that the king was absorbed in reading and became curious. He put down his tools and approached the king, saying, "Your Highness, what is in this book you are reading?" King Huan held up the book with great respect. The words of sages. The Wheelmaker asked, "Are these sages still alive, Your Highness?" The king shook his head. "No, they are long gone." "I see," the Wheelmaker nodded. "In that case, Your Highness is reading the leftovers of the ancients. This struck the king as incredibly insulting. His anger flared. You are nothing more than a lowly craftsman. Is it your place to comment on what I read? Explain the reasoning of your statement, and I may let you live. If you fail to do so, I shall have your head. The wheelmaker responded calmly, Your Highness, I can explain by using what I know about making wheels. The hole in the center of the wheel has to be just right. If I chisel too quickly and make the hole too big, the wheel will slip off the axle. If I chisel too slowly and make the hole too small, the wheel will fit too tightly or won't fit at all. Therefore, the secret of my trade is making the hole just right, so the wheel is easy to use and turns well. King Huan snapped, What does this have to do with my book? The wheelmaker continued, The skill of making the wheel just right is something I can describe with words, but can never pass on to my son. Without years of practice to develop the feeling to guide the work, he will never be able to master my techniques. That is why I am 70 years old and still making wheels. The wisdom of the sages is just like that. Their words are still in the book, but their real essence from years of living the Tao was lost when they passed away. That is why I said the book contained the leftovers of the ancients. King Huan did not expect such a profound explanation. He set the book down and began to reflect on the wheelmaker's words. So, as I said, the story, as Derek told it, is multi-layered. There's lots of teachings in here, teachings on moderation, and balance. Those are all part of that story. But the part that I think applies to my talk today is what he said about the information in books being sort of the leftover wisdom of the ancients. It's dead static knowledge until you take it and apply it to your life. Only then does it become living. Only then does it make an impact. Only then does it make a difference. And I often think of that story to remind myself, not to only get caught up in the intellectual understanding of something, but to really understand it, derive its wisdom, and apply it. Because knowledge for the sake of knowledge is pretty useless. But knowledge applied to your life to make it happy and balanced and better, to enjoy living, well, that's well worth the effort. That's well worth the sustained, diligent practice. And that sustained, diligent practice is something we can do all the time. We can learn a little bit more all the time. Practical experience always trumps static knowledge. It just always will. I mean, it's the same thing when you go for a job. You can have the education and tons of credentials and so forth, but what employers generally usually really look for is actual hands-on, on-the-job experience. And so too it is with the Tao. It's the experience of living it that helps you transform your life, that helps you find your destiny, and that helps you live life to the fullest. So I'm going to start to sum it up now, if I can. In the West, many people mistakenly believe that the term Kung Fu refers solely to martial arts. We sort of have that one-dimensional definition of it. I certainly was that way until I read this chapter many years ago. One of the wonderful things about Derek is because of his understanding of Chinese culture, not only the language, but also too the culture itself. He can unpack things like this and give things a deeper, broader meaning. Yeah, and this is a great example of that. Because, of course, as I said earlier, in the East, it has a much broader definition. It refers to sustained, diligent practice. So we begin by acquiring the knowledge of the Tao teachings and disseminating that raw knowledge into wisdom. And, that comes from thinking and reflecting. And it's always best to do that after developing the ability to be calm from the inside out. And there's lots of different ways to do that. Meditative practice can be very helpful. Oftentimes what you learn in meditation, you can, in a sense, apply during hectic moments of your life. You can take that calmness and bring it, because calmness is always a choice. That's certainly an example of applying one of the most fundamental teachings of the Tao, to bring that sort of calm, directed focus to every situation of your life. And then to achieve mastery, we must take that wisdom and apply it to real life situations. When we commit to doing this, the benefits are endless. The reason why the Tao teachings are so life-changing is because they're simple and easy to understand. And once you commit, they're actually simple and easy to put into action too. And as you do it, you gain more confidence, more energy. And it becomes honestly more and more easy to do as time goes on. And, that's really our goal, so to speak, is to take the information in the teachings, the knowledge, the wisdom, and to just not leave it as static knowledge, but to make it living action by actually living those teachings. Okay, so that's it. I want to, as always, end with a book recommendation, The Tao of Joy Every Day, a great book to use daily to help one study and learn the Tao teachings and put them into action. So there it was, day 30, Practice Makes Perfect, Kung Fu. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to what I had to say today. I hope I said something that was helpful, and I hope you all have a wonderful Sunday.
Let's go ahead and do the meeting ending ritual, everybody. 起立，面向佛堂，持架深鞠躬，一鞠躬，再鞠躬，三鞠躬，持架各位顶传十一鞠躬，斜翻一鞠躬。Well done, everybody. Thank you so much.